What happens when water is exposed to EMF, or wireless radiation? Here's something you may not know. Water is conscious, and it responds vibrationally to whatever it is exposed to. At Omnia, we've done an experiment where we froze and photographed 3 samples of water. Water which was not exposed to EMF radiation, the baseline, looked like this. Water which was exposed to an EMF field, a 5G radiation field in fact, looked like this. And water which was exposed to EMF that is balanced by the OMNIA radiation balancer looked like this. See the difference? Remember, your body is 70% water.
And here's a special offer for the Journey to Truth crowd. Just enter the word truth in caps at the checkout for your 10% discount.
Hey guys, welcome back to the show. Just a reminder, Aaron and I will be in Aztec, New Mexico next week for the SUNFIRE Festival with our Experiencers Lounge. It's not too late to grab a ticket. They have day passes available now, sunfirefest.com. That link is below. All the information is on the website. So if you want to come hang out with us, it's going to be a lot of fun. There's a lot of great speakers, some music, some meditations. It's like a Native American themed. There's going to be a lot of spiritual healing and stuff like that as well. We're really excited about it, and it's just around the corner. So if you want to come hang out, that link is below. And just a reminder that our documentary, The Cahokia Mounds Untold, is now available on our Patreon, and the public date is soon to be announced, but it's going to be right around the corner. We can't wait to release it publicly so everyone can see it. And you might recognize today's guest, Jordan Dreste, from the documentary. He was actually one of the local people who was working on a construction site when they came across some ruins, and they closed the site down for an archaeological dig. So welcome to the show, Jordan. We're glad to have you here.
Yeah, it's nice to be on. Hello.
So for those of you who don't know Jordan, which most of you probably don't, he has one of those stories when he started telling me his story about being targeted and UFOs, and there's a whole number of things involved, but it was just one of those stories that catches your attention. It's like, wait a minute, say that again. And you started telling your story, and I wasn't expecting it to be as in-depth and involved as it was. And you have evidence to support everything you're saying, which a lot of people don't. You have audio, EVP recording, surveillance footage. You have, I could go on and on, but we'll let you get into that. But you have so much to back up with what you're actually saying, which I find compelling. Guys, you're in for a ride. This story is fascinating. So welcome to the show, Jordan.
Yeah. So I guess I'll start out. It's really an unusual story. And for the longest time, I was like, why is this happening to me? And I think that anyone that's gone through these experiences of being targeted, they always ask, why me? What did I do? You're going back and forth in your mind. It's mind games. I was kind of reminded of it's wicked games that they play with you. And so I've been an electrical contractor since 1999. So we're going on 20 something years here. And I worked as a communication electrician through most my entire life and loved it. And this happened. It started happening in the fall of 2015. I had started working I was working for DirecTV, and I was a technician, a communications technician. I did installations and repairs for them. And I started working for them around 2013, and it was the best job of my life. Like, it was so much fun. I didn't see my bosses. I didn't have to talk to anyone. I'd go in a warehouse once a week, pick up my materials, and I'd hit the road. And every day I'd get up, jump in my van, go do my route, come home. It was wonderful. And about 2015, I had a daughter. So this make my second kid. I'm in this highlight of my life. I'm established. I've got a good career. I've got some money put away. And, I really want to go back and say, I think I was kind of targeted my whole life. And somehow I was ascending up. I was coming up in consciousness or a higher vibration. And Anyway, when my daughter was born, I stopped doing a lot of the side work I used to do. I just cut it out completely. And I said, I'm not going to do any more side work. I'm going to spend time at home with my daughter. And life even got better. Now, a lot of people that know me, I have a lot of hobbies, and one of them is small engine repair. So in the evenings and on the weekends, I would sometimes do small engine repair. I have a shop out in my backyard. And I don't really advertise, but my friends know, and I've got, some business coming in quite a bit in the summer months, and then a lot towards fall. People want to get their stuff winterized. They want to get their snow blowers going, etc. And so I'm out in the my backyard, and I have a little shop I said way in the back, and I would work late, sometimes 2 o'clock in the morning. I'd be out there working. And it's all started out one night. I'm out there working, and I got the doors open because it's real nice and cool out. And I'm starting to hear like chattering, like people talking, and I come out, my backyard's really long. It's like 250 foot long by 50 foot. And I'm looking around. I got a privacy fence up, and I don't see anyone or hear anyone, but I just felt this ominous feeling that I was being watched. And I go back in there and work, and I had the radio going, and I would hear this chatter, and I just kind of thought, maybe I'm losing it, or maybe my neighbors are getting mad. Maybe I'm making too much noise and someone's coming outside complaining. So I kind of packed it up for the night. And I think that particular night, it was like 1 or 2 in the morning. And so I go inside and I just turn on a movie. I'm going to kind of relax. And it's a weekend. I think I was on vacation too. So I was up pretty late. I had my schedule kind of off, which is kind of normal for me. So during the movie, I thought, you know what? I'm going to check my surveillance footage. Working as a communication electrician, I've got a lot of, technique, cameras and stuff going on here. Anyone that works in that field's got a lot of that kind of stuff going on. So I'm looking at my footage on my cameras, and it's just a normal night. Well, then out of the corner of my rear camera, I see this drone fly in. So my shed's like right here, and it flies into the corner of the property, right above the fence line, and it spins around so they could see like right through my shop doors where I'm working. And then kind of, I guess it snapped a shot. And then it went like this, and it goes off onto the street behind me. And then when I seen that, I freaked out, because I was like, someone is watching me. What's going on? And this is 2 a.m. This camera is on the rear of my house, a 2-story house, and it's above my son's bedroom window. So way up on the gable, on the dormer. So I go in his bedroom, he's passed out, and I pull down the top, I don't know what you call it, the top part of the window. I pull it down, and I'm standing on the window ledge, and I'm reaching up there to the camera because I'm going to aim it up higher. I want to aim it up higher so I'm catching the sky. Not so much for my yard, but I want to catch the sky now. I want to see what's been going on. And I'm doing this, and I'm looking at my phone. I'm watching the remote viewing on my phone to see what my angle is. And I see this light shining back at me, coming back at my camera. And I look out the window, and I don't see any light. And I look at the camera, and surely there's someone shooting like a flashlight back. Well, it didn't dawn on me really quick, but what it was infrared light. It was those red little LEDs that you have on your camera that light up night vision. So someone was filming me night vision as I'm doing this. I'm literally re-aiming my cameras, and someone's recording me right back. And I start freaking out. I'm like, what's going on? So I kind of blow it off, but in the coming days, and I should have started with this too, even before this, on my route, we were going through a merger with AT&T. It was 2015 that kind of announced it, and it became official, I think, July of 2016. But when I would be doing my route at work, I would always notice, or I started to notice, there'd be a vehicle parked down the street from my job, someone sitting in the car. I didn't think nothing of it at first, but when I would take my lunches, a lot of technicians, you'll notice when you see those crews out there, the cable company or satellite companies, whatever, they'll take their lunches. You'll see them parked in the back of a Schnucks parking lot, a grocery store parking lot, a Home Depot parking lot, taking their lunch. They don't want to be bothered. And so I kind of did the same thing. I'd kind of find a parking lot where there was no one, and I would pack my lunch. And sure enough, people started showing up even in those situations. I'd be in a business parking lot where there was not even a business anymore. And some guy would come pull up a couple spots away from me, and they, sometimes they had tenant windows, but sometimes they wouldn't, and it'd just be two people sitting in there talking. But what I started to catch is they always had Texas plates, and the car was almost always white, SUV. And so I began to really be observant, and I wasn't saying anything yet. So in the coming days, I'm back home and I'm doing the same stuff, with the family. And anytime I would go outside now, I was on alert. And it really was kind of bothering me that had happened. But at the beginning, I thought it was a neighbor. Just wanted to see what I was doing in my backyard so late. And when I would be working out there in the coming nights, now it's not so late. So now I started doing this earlier in the evening just because I thought maybe I was being a little loud at night. So we're talking 7, 8, 9, 10 p.m. And I would hear footsteps on the other side of my fence, people walking around. I would come back in, I'd look at my surveillance footage, and there'd be a lot of activity going on the street behind me. I would see people crossing from one house, going to this other house, and back from that house, back from these two houses. And I thought, what the heck? And I'm just watching the rear camera. So I went around and I re-angled all these cameras up, and these were older cameras. They were like 520 lines of resolution. I put them in when I first bought my home. I would say around 2008. So they were older. The DVR wasn't the best, but it was good for what I needed. I never had any problems. And anyway, after I adjusted all my other cameras up, I started to notice the same stuff happening on the street in front of me too. And it was these three houses in particular. And I caught this guy. There's a house right over here. He was on the back porch of this house, and he had this like Canon camera, but this thing had like a 2.5, 3 foot lens on it. I mean, I hadn't seen anything like it. And he's filming my house, and I'm still watching all this on my phone, remote viewing, or watching it in my living room on my TV. And I was like, what's going on here? What's going on? And so I called our local police department. I live in St. Louis County. I called our local police department, and I know quite a bit of people. I lived here almost my whole life, and I know quite a bit of people on the the city council. I know some of the cops, and I talked to the chief, and I say, hey, there's some kind of surveillance going on, and it seems like they're watching me. And he goes, well, what's going on? And I'm like, well, I've had some cars at work I've noticed pulling up on my jobs. And then I've kind of seen some people. I'm hearing people walking around in the backyards. And I said, so I don't know what it is. We're going through a merger at work. I was like, it could be corporate security, but why would they be following me at home? Working with internet and stuff like that, they kind of really watch that stuff, because I guess there's one of the biggest threats is internet attacks.
Yeah, cybersecurity.
Yeah, cybersecurity. And I knew we were being bought out. And I wasn't quite into doing the internet. I was still doing DirecTV stuff. The merger hadn't even happened yet. And the cops tell me, or actually, I should say the chief, he tells me, he goes, well, there's nothing to be worried about. But if you're being surveilled for some reason, they typically do it from a car. They don't get out of their car. And I'm thinking back, and I was like, yeah, I had a workman's comp case several years ago. And they almost always follow you. And yeah, I had been tailed after I had a surgery on my knee. I tore my meniscus. And after that surgery, I left my house one day, and this lady tailed me, and I caught it right away. She tailed me in the car, so I just took her on a big loop. I took her up one highway, made a right, went down another highway, made a big box basically around St. Louis. And by the third turn, I guess she caught on. And so I went back home. I was never followed again.
Well, they say if you think you're being followed, you're supposed to make 3 right turns. You're
3 right turns, and I knew that.
You're supposed to make a box, yeah. And so at what point, was this before or after the UFO experience when that happened?
The UFO experience comes in later.
Okay. Well, I'll let you get there. Yeah.
So anyway, I start to be really observant, and I come into work one day, and I'm telling my coworkers, I had 2 close buddies at work that I talked to all day. We were kind of a triangle of friends, and we talked all the time. We would get supplies from each other if we needed a part or something on the job. We were just close friends. We took care of each other at work. And I started to tell these guys what was going on, and they told me I was paranoid. No one's following you. You're nuts. And I was like, something's going on. I told them about the stuff that was happening at home. And they didn't believe it. And I'm like, okay, well, something's going on. They're surveilling someone, and it seems like it's me. And I was like, yeah, it could be a neighbor, and they just wanted to see what I was doing since I was out so late working. And it had me feeling real insecure. I felt really insecure, and almost I kind of felt like I was guilty of something, but I wasn't doing anything wrong. But I just had this nasty feeling. And so anyway, in the evenings when I would come home from DirecTV, I would usually clean my van out, get all the junk from the day out, reorganize it. And sometimes I got home pretty late at nighttime. So I noticed when I'd be cleaning out my van at night, these drones started to fly over my house. And I can hear the buzzing. And anyone that has a drone, and I didn't notice at the time because I didn't have one, you can set a waypoint. Like you can say, hey, longitude, latitude, I want you to go to this spot and just circle it and film. And so I look up in the sky, and every evening when I'd get home and be doing this, 1 to 2 drones would show up in the sky, and they would start doing a counterclockwise rotation over my property. And I watched them, and it was just right over my property. And at that point, I knew something was going on. I'd hear people walking around the backside of my fence of my neighbor's property. My neighbor's, he was an old man. He was in his 70s, 80s, and his backyard's kind of very wooded. So you could be back, no light. You could be back there kind of hiding and listening or watching or filming or whatever. No one would know. And my son began to pick up on it too. He'd come outside. I think at the time, let's see, he was probably 10, 12 years old. And one day he goes, Dad, someone's pointing lasers at the house. And I go, what do you mean lasers? And I had seen something like it once, and I just thought it was some kids playing with a laser. And he goes, I see these lasers shooting from different angles, and they're hitting the house. And I said, well, where are they coming from? And he goes, he points over this direction. And I hadn't been watching that area. So I started watching all the cameras, and there was someone, it was a property, it was a duplex. It had a backyard driveway, and there was someone sitting over there in a car, and I could see the infrared lights shining back on my property from that angle, and that's exactly where the laser had come from. I could see these people in front surveilling, and then someone behind me, 2 houses behind me. So I'm being surveilled from 1, 2, 3, 4 places. And at this point, I already know that they're watching me, but I don't know why. And so I'm trying to figure out, what are these microphones? I'm doing research online, and I think it was some kind of like a laser microphone. They hit your window. They had some technology like that I had read about. And then I didn't know about mind control stuff at this point. But I go to work the next day, and I tell my boss what's going on. I say, I don't know if it's something to do with the merger, if AT&T's kind of watching how we do our thing. I said, but there's no reason for me to be watched at home. And really, they were doing this. They were riding with guys and seeing how we conducted our business. But this wasn't riding with me on my job, on my routes. This was sitting down the street and watching. And it was just very unusual. And my boss, he's really laid back, nice guy. They all were really good people that worked there. Made it very fun to work there. And he goes, all right, I'll look into it. I'll call corporate security. And I never hear anything about it. And, and in the coming days, he's joking with me. He's like, so did you get followed yesterday? And I was like, honestly, yesterday, I didn't see anything at all. And what was funny is when I started to go public with this and talk to my friends about it, it kind of died down for a little bit. Or they got better at doing it. So I never hear anything back. He says I never received a call back. And then one day I'm working out in the farm fields of Illinois. Actually, I don't know if it was Illinois or Missouri, but I'm out in the farm fields, and I'm putting DirecTV in a bar. And I noticed this FedEx truck, huge FedEx truck. It drives by, and it's got another one right behind it. And they kind of park at a nearby business, and they're sitting there, and I'm like, what is up with this? I'm like, this is strange too. So I finish up this job, and I'm feeling just real stressed out. I got all this activity happening at home. It's happening at work. I'm not sleeping good. I'm spending my whole evenings watching people on my cameras. I'm just trying to pick it out. I'm talking to my friends about it. They think I'm nuts. I'm telling my girlfriend about it. She don't believe it. Telling my parents about it. They don't believe it. And they don't see it, but they don't know the technology either. So none of them understand. They didn't know what infrared light is. I'm showing them the footage. They're like, well, that could have just been a floodlight or something. I'm like, floodlights don't move. And I'm trying to explain to them the technology. I'm like, go grab your remote control and point it at your phone while you're recording, and you'll see that light come out, that white light. You can't see it with your eye, but your phone can sure see it. So my friends and family think I'm nuts. I take off work that day and I come home. Like, I took the day off early. And the next day comes around and I call into work. I said, I'm not coming in today. I do not feel good. I basically called in sick. And on that particular day, those two close friends to me, they were followed. The one buddy was followed. He said a plumbing truck kept showing up. The same plumbing truck I think he said he noticed it on 2 or 3 of his jobs. And I'm like, okay, there's no way this plumber's got a route that close to where you're working. I mean, that's odd. And my buddy Don, I shouldn't use names. I'm not going to use any more names, but he goes, yeah, I had a white car show up with Texas plates, and I noticed it on a couple of my jobs. And so the very last one, I came out and I was a cul-de-sac, and it's parked down the street. And he goes, I got in my van, and he says, I made a right turn, and I made another right turn, and I made another right turn, and this car is still behind me. He goes, I make a 4th right turn, and it's still behind me. He goes, I pulled down another cul-de-sac, and he goes, I got in the back of my van, I got a piece of pipe. And he's kind of a hothead. It was really funny, his story. And he goes, I got out of my van and I went towards him, and he just drove off. And I said, wow. So he goes in to our office at DirecTV, both of them, and they tell my boss, they go, Jordan's not seeing things. This is actually happening. This happened to both of us today. And they tell their story. And now my boss is kind of concerned. So I truly believe he didn't know what was going on. I do believe this was somehow tied with the government and AT&T. I mean, I'm pretty positive at this point.
Well, AT&T is one of the largest corporations at this point. I mean,
yeah. And doing investigations, I found out that AT&T's corporate office is in Texas, and also the NSA is also located out of Texas. And it gets a little wild from here. So now I'm trying to prove it. I'm trying to prove it. So my friends at work know. They kind of know what's happening, but they don't understand it. They kind of wonder, hey, is this AT&T? Is this the government? So I call my police chief again, and my dad knows him really good. I kind of know him, and I said, hey, there's someone surveilling me, and it's not me. And he goes, well, I'm just going to tell you straight up. The FBI's in the area, and they're doing an investigation, but it's not you. They told me what it's about. And he's like, there's no way it could be you. And he makes it seem like they're investigating like a pedophile or a murderer or something. This is the way he makes it sound. And I'm thinking, man, and he gets really mad at me. He goes, what is it you're doing wrong anyway? Why are you so worried? And I said, someone's watching me. And I'm calling the police. I'm calling the police. I'm doing what anyone should do. If I was doing something wrong, I'm sure the heck not going to call you. Right. But he kind of was ignorant about it. So I had started recording audio too after the laser ordeal, and I started doing some research. And I found out there was a laser mic. I started recording EVPs. I had an Olympus recorder, and I would set it up in the rooms I was in. And so, I spent most of my day just going back through security footage and listening to audio. And I pick up this EVP in my bedroom, and it's very weird. So I'm on the recorder. You can hear the audio in my house, but you can hear this investigator talking, and he picks up the phone. He answers a call on speakerphone, and it's my police captain. And he goes, hey, I want to let you know this resident at this address has called me twice, and he's concerned that you're watching him. And he goes, I don't know, maybe he's up to something. It seems kind of suspicious. I just wanted to let you know. And the FBI agent at this time, I know it's the FBI, he's like, okay, well, thanks for the call. And that's all he says. He doesn't say anything to him. So I don't know, and he hangs up. But
Super
what's
strange.
more weird is I picked this up on my audio recorder in my bedroom. It was in my bedroom, and I don't know if it's the same EVP footage, but I'm hearing this clicking, like clicking, click. And it's weird, like almost if you like ran your fingers across mini blinds. And I don't have those kind of mini blinds in my bedroom. It's like the plastic cheap mini blinds. You go like this and it makes that clicking noise. And I'm like, what is that? And I'm picking up all this interference on my recorders. My internet is dropping constantly. My our cell service sucked. Remote controls wouldn't work. We kept having routers and modems go out, like stop working. We had a couple TVs. One day on one particular week, all three radios and all three vehicles went kaputs. And
There's electromagnetic interference for sure.
It was some kind of microwave technology, and I'm picking up all these weird anomalies on my cameras, like the back camera it would shoot back towards the houses on the back. You would see this weird, like, square box with these weird colors coming through it. And I knew there was some type of technology being used on me. And I felt like just very scared and worried, And now I know that's a mind control technology to make you feel worried or scared.
It's like a voice to skull technology. Is that
a voice? Yeah, it was a voice to skull. And so anyway, I look up, and now I'm starting to get into study this technology, and I'm reading about the microwave technology, and I find all these US patents on mind control, and I think there's like 23 of them. You guys have probably seen them.
Oh yeah.
And, apparatus for audio listening device and stuff like that, and it was very crazy, and I printed them all out, and I'm doing some research online, and one of them explains how it works, the piezo's. And basically, the lasers, it somehow radiates your brain. So it's a laser microwave technology. It would radiate your brain, but it would do a clicking. In response, they could read your thoughts. And I'm really freaking out. And I'm like, okay, this is extremely strange. It actually bothers me to even talk about it now. It actually makes me feel very uncomfortable to even talk about now. But so now, my friends and family think that they're going to have to put me in a psych ward because I'm literally going nuts. But my family and friends still don't, or my friends kind of know it worked. My family don't believe it. And I pull up this Edward Snowden video that I found online on YouTube, and I've never seen this but on YouTube, and I've only seen it once. He's doing an interview with something, and he talks about the NSA having this technology, and they've got it tied into the computers, and he's going, we can listen to people's thoughts and watch them as they form. He's going, as they form, we can see the words pop up on the TV, up on their monitors of your thoughts. And then he could say, like, someone's writing a book, and then you can kind of see them change their mind and then come up with a new correspondence. And he was astounded. He says, I was astounded. He goes, I couldn't believe that we had that technology. And I'm thinking about this. And I had watched his movie, and in his movie, he drops. He's hearing this ringing in his ears. They don't really explain this in the movie, but he's hearing this ringing in his ears, and he kind of drops. I don't know if he had a seizure. I thought about it, and I was like, man, I've heard ringing in my ears my entire life. It's like a microwave ringing. And how do I explain it? It's the old tube TVs. They make that little ringing.
That high-pitched
exactly
frequency, yeah.
How it sounds. And then I thought back in my life, and I'm like, man, I don't remember hearing that those past few years. I don't remember hearing that. Well, what I know now, it's 2023. This was back in 2015, 2016. The higher my vibration is, the less I hear that, the less I hear it until it's completely gone. And sometimes it's so overpowering that, it really screws with your focus. And the more I would research this mind control technology, I mean, people that say, well, I got a song stuck in my head or something. And I don't believe that. I believe that that's some kind of a microwave, voice to skull technology. And what they're doing is they're using that music and they're playing it to kind of keep you connected. Because if they don't do that, I think you become disconnected from whatever this is. And I do believe it works. I know how it works today. And part of it is it works through the cell towers, but they also have the ability to do this local. Like these guys can show up and point this stuff at your brain, right at your head. And I had watched my girlfriend come home one day. I'm sitting in my living room and I'm watching surveillance footage live. And she comes home and our driveway's in the backyard. And she gets out of the car. And there was this weird anomaly on my driveway, just this dot sitting there idle. And I see it. My girlfriend gets out of her car and I watch this laser beam come up and it's on her forehead. And on my cameras, I see it as white light. And as she's going up the stairs, our deck, I can see that laser bouncing. And she comes into her house through the kitchen. And then she goes down the stairs in the basement. And I can still see the beam of light kind of coming into the house. And as she's going down the basement, this thing is still following her. And I really freaked out then. And I kind of thought about it. I'm like, well, that's not coming from the neighborhood. That's coming from the sky. I'm like, so they've got some type of, and I'm going to share a clip of this. I've got a clip of this actually happening. They've got some type of mind control satellites out there that use this infrared technology. And it's kind of hard to see the naked eye. You may have other targeted individuals that have claimed to see lasers or beams of light. But I've got a clip, and these things they can move them. So they're moving these satellites too. And it's like right out in front of my house on one particular day, there's 3 of them. And you can see like 3 beams of light coming down. And to me, it just, and I'm going back and forth. I'm like, why is this happening to me? Why me? Why? What did I do?
Well,
and really, what?
Real quick, what do you think the light was, the beam like coming on to her head? Was she experiencing anything also?
She didn't know it, but heck, like I said, I went through my whole life hearing that ringing and music playing in my head and hearing, voices in my brain that I thought were me. You almost believe, so you should not have an inside voice. A lot of people believe they got this inside voice. They're talking to themselves in their mind. No, that's not possible. You got a voice in your mind. There's some type of technology being used against you, or you've got a demon.
Or entities, I was going to say.
Or entities or something. You've got an attachment.
Yeah.
But, and thoughts don't come in like someone's speaking them to you. If you're sitting there and you think you're thinking and you're hearing this idea come into your brain and it feels like it's being spoken in, it is being spoken in. Your brain is infinite. Thoughts, your brain doesn't need to think about breathing or heart, your heartbeat. Or if I'm going to move my arm left or right, my brain doesn't have it. It's instantaneous.
Do it. Right.
And I really started to pay attention to this. So I was able to separate from this audio. It was working. It was on me. And I think what had happened is in this high of my life, somehow I got disconnected from this technology. We're going through this merger at AT&T. There's this union campaign going on, and I'm kind of against it. I had bad experiences. I was union. I was non-union. I've been on both sides of those fences. I've been in all those parties. And I'm just telling people what my experiences are. People listen to me. They would listen to me. They trust me. And the more this was happening, I was finding people's trust in me was kind of going down. People didn't believe in me as much. And that's exactly what these campaigns are. They did this stuff to Martin Luther King. They used this technology. Well, they didn't have the technology, but they were doing it via gang stalking, and they were writing them harassing notes. If you don't stop doing this, you're going to be murdered.
We're going to kill your family. Blah,
yeah,
blah, blah.
You can look this stuff up. There's a lot of documentation on it. So, we do have a type of black government or dark government that is trying to keep people down. Anyone pops up a power, they want to beat them down because they don't want anyone rising above them. They want to stay on top. That's exactly what's going on,
Keep the control system going.
Yeah.
Anything that's a threat to that, they viciously will go after as much as they can.
And I firmly believe, like you said earlier, like as someone is truly tapping in to their potential and raising their frequency, dropping into their heart, elevating themselves, it's like they pop up on the radar now. And I feel like that person is now targeted specifically, extra targeting. Like,
but
yeah.
And that goes along with what you said earlier, that is true. But at the same time, as you raise your frequency, you start raising above a lot of this technology. It doesn't even work on you anymore because your frequency is too high.
Right.
That's exactly.
So both of those things are actually true. So they can only do certain things, and then till a point where I think they just can't do anything anymore.
You're exactly right.
Or maybe some of it's like the backlash they would get by attacking you when you're at a certain level would be so great that they know that, and they just stay away from you as well.
Yeah. And so I was going to start getting into some of the evidence stuff that's happening and some of the technology, and then we'll lead into the UFO encounters. But you're absolutely right. And I didn't know this at the time. I wasn't spiritual. I didn't know anything about vibration, high vibration, low vibration. I would just, for me, it was having a good day. I was having a good day. I felt good. But yeah, and the higher you are, and I mean, I was noticing this stuff too, as the coming weeks, like I'd go to work, and if I had a good day, it seemed like I wouldn't feel so worryful and fearful. And even I wouldn't see so much stuff happening around the house either, but it was almost like I was popping into another dimension or in and out of timelines. I don't know. It was very strange the way it would happen. So some of the things that were happening too is we had all this interference with the cameras. Well, the cameras are hardwired, but with the internet mostly. And we couldn't get Wi-Fi. Devices were dropping out. We had the 3 radios going out in all 3 vehicles at once was the most weird thing. And then our router went out and our TV. What was strange about it is those were the things that kind of brought me up, watching a good movie, listening to the radio. And now those things all just stopped working. And I start doing some investigation. I get online and I'm on St. Louis County tax records. And you can actually get on there and you can type a name in. You can find out who owns the house, what they pay in taxes. And I'm putting in these addresses where the houses I'm being surveilled from. And they're all under some management company. They're all owned by the same management company, which I thought was that's a red flag,
Yeah.
Right up. And I said, okay, something's really going on here. I know it's the FBI. And I see this Wi-Fi network pop up. And it's called Battlefield. They named it Battlefield. And then it gets even weird. So now they know I know, and they're screwing with me. My network would pop up. They were hacking into my network and then extending it. And I guess they were using my own technology against me. So it would say something like, Jordan's network -1. It would have an extra syllable at the end. Same name and then extra syllable. And I was like, my network's being extended. And working as a communication electrician, mainly do the wiring and some programming here and there. I didn't know a lot about IT and, the technology behind routers. I could set up a network and do some basic stuff. I really got into it. My cousin's in IT, and he taught me. He goes, well, your internet's getting hacked. He told me how to get in there, and I could see all the firewall breaches over and over and over again. One day I'm sitting on my MacBook, and it bleeps out, and somehow I see this Windows background on my Mac. And I'm like, what is going on here? And
a Windows, you mean like a Windows desktop?
Like a Windows desktop just bleeped into my my Apple. Yeah, onto my Apple MacBook.
Nothing weird about
this
that.
Was strange. So now I'm on the network, and I'm seeing devices connected that I don't know what they are. And I'm also seeing all these breaches. I can't remember what part it is, but you can go through and see where people have come into the network and out of it. And at the time, I think those cameras were tied in. There they were, because I was watching them on remote viewing. So they were tied into the network too. And even when I would watch the footage, if I came home from work and I wanted to see what happened while I was at work, generally nothing happened. But I noticed on some weekends when we would go out to eat or something, it would be this beautiful night, and then in the middle of the clip, it was like someone cloned in or cropped it in. I don't know what you call it. They would cut and paste footage. So you would see this bleep and the footage would be different, like a different day, like rainy or a little bit more sunny or something. And then it would go back to my footage, almost like they had came on the property or they were within view. And so they cropped it out. And at this point, I know they're getting in the network, and I know they're using my own cameras against me. The surveillance had kind of died down a little bit. Well, yeah, because they were watching me on my own. I got something like 9 or 10 cameras around my property. They were watching me on my own cameras. And then furthermore, I start getting into I start learning about MAC addresses, and I realize, actually, I should say I'm told that, every device has a digital number, a MAC address. Mm-hmm. And so I went through the network and I kind of combed it out. I labeled each device, what it is. And on the coming days, I noticed that my phone, it would say Jordan's iPhone 8, and it'd have the MAC address. And it would happen. It would pull up 2 to 3 times. And then my girlfriend's phone, it would say Stephanie's iPhone, and it would pull up 3 times. There would be 2 to 3 of our phones, duplicates. And I'm talking to my cousin about it. And I'm like, why would my device pull up 3 times? And he goes, sometimes that might happen if you're changing networks, like if you're going back and forth between a Wi-Fi or cell towers or something, you might see that. And I'm like, well, no, we're just at home. Nothing's changed. And he says, well, there's cloning. There's a way to clone your MAC addresses. So I started doing the Find My Phone. When I would be at home, I would go into the Find My Phone app and just do the GPS to see where it was. And it was funny. It would pull up right here in my own home. I hit it again, and it would pull up across the street or pull up at one of these houses behind me, and almost right on top of the houses, the same ones I'm being surveilled. We're going through this AT&T merger. Now we're into the new year. I think it's like February or March. And everywhere I go, I'm noticing this. I got some kind of I can't remember the software I used. Talking to some buddies that are good with this IT stuff, I got some software, and I was able to actually monitor it when I was out of the home too. And so I'd be going down the highway, and I would just hit the Find My Phone, and it might show up, hey, you're right here on 70 in front of Lambert Airport. And I'd hit it again, and it would pull up the GPS, but it'd be like an exit back. I'd hit it again, and it might be right on cue. And so I'm doing this with my girlfriend's phone too. She's not with me. She's back at home. So I'm using the Find My Phone app on her device as well. And it's showing up in the same place, one exit behind me. As I'm traveling down the highway and I'm GPSing the phones, it's going back and forth from where I'm at to behind me. I'm like, there's no way that she's on the highway behind me. And I track it again, and then it would show up at my home.
Well, when somebody clones your IP address, they have like full access to everything. They have access to your phone. Like
they have your phone.
They have your phone.
The same thing. They can make phone calls with your phone. When your phone rings, that phone rings. It's a clone. And I don't know how it works with the cell towers, but at this point, I mean, I knew that I thought it was crazy. And I'm like, what? Why? I know I just can't grasp the concept of the stuff that was happening to me. It was insane. I'm thinking to myself, like, the amount of technology that was being used against me was crazy. It was like if the government used all of its resources to monitor someone. It almost felt like, I'm seeing beams come down from the from space, like satellite technology, cell phone technology. On one particular clip I'll share with you, hopefully I can find these too. I've got a camera shooting down the side of my driveway, and you can kind of see past my electrical meter, and there's this blinking red light on it that just, every few minutes it would blink off and on. And I think they're Zigbee or Z-Wave smart meters. This is before the ones we have now. The ones we have now, they can flip a switch and turn your meter off, turn your power off. This is the ones before that. But in this camera view, you can see my meter, and the light on the meter is just blinking rapidly, blinking. Almost like, you ever look at your router on your computer router or the back of your modem, and you have the yellow and the green light, and they blink as that data's being transferred. They might go blink, 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 and then there'll be really a pause fast. And then a blink. What they're pausing as the data packets are being sent and received. Well, that's what my smart meter was doing, but it was constant and rapid. And I had remembered people throwing big fits about having these meters installed and the radiation and all that. And this is what I came across. I think his name is John Lilly. So there is a software, or I guess it would be a software. He developed this Lilly wave, he calls it, and I can't remember how it goes. It's like a straight line up like that, almost like a heartbeat. And it's implemented through the power grid. And from what I read about it, it's kind of is meant to open up the brain's firewall, or the mind's firewall, to further the technology, the voice to God weapon technology. And I'm reading about it, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, smart meters. I'm like, man, they could just turn this on someone's house and implement this technology through someone's home and sit there and manipulate them with this mind control technology, and then get them where they want them and then turn it off. And I proved this. I started showing this to people. I got a little spectrum analyzer, and I came up in my bedroom and I plugged the probes into the outlet, and I went into the I can't remember what screen is, the frequencies, and sure enough, it was coming right through the grid. You could see it coming through. And I'm like, oh my God, and like I said, I wasn't spiritual. I didn't know about boundaries. We have the ability. I tell friends about this all the time. I'm on a couple of TI groups, and I try to help these people out. Some of these, as I know what it's like. I've been there and been targeted and felt like it doesn't matter where you go. You don't know where you don't know who is an actual person, who's gang stalking you. If it's the government, it gets really bad, and they really put their thumb on people with this technology.
Some TIs are very, I understand, because they're going through so much stuff, but they seem almost like hopeless. Like, I felt hopeless. Right. I had no hope. And I was doing some crazy stuff. I was trying anything to try and disrupt their equipment, trying to jam signals, do anything I could. But I went through my whole router, combed it out. I set up my router, made it invisible, changed the network, put 2 firewalls on, which is just insane, double firewall. And I set it up to only the devices that I had physically typed in the MAC address could connect to the network. And then I put a max limit to where only 20 devices can only connect. So with those 20 devices connected, if someone was cloning my phone and trying to get onto the network, it wouldn't allow them. My device, even though they had a clone phone, same MAC address, I even went and got new phones. I got us new phones. I got new numbers. It happened again with the new phones, the new numbers. But once I did that, they couldn't, come onto the network. It wouldn't allow it. The number was maxed out. All my devices were connected, and it would allow no more to connect. Plus, you couldn't see the network. Well, something really funny happened after that. The devices would drop out, leaving in, an open slot. Or they would clone another device, MAC address, to get into the network. It was strange. It'd be something like called an Alexa. The Alexa would be dropped offline. It wouldn't work, but that MAC address would be being used. And it was so they found that way to get in. These guys are extremely smart with this stuff. They know what they're doing. And at that point, I stopped using wireless. I would turn my wireless off, and everything was hardwired. So I would keep my phone in airplane, and literally, unless I needed it, I bought a case, and I was blocking the cameras on my cell phone. I knew that I was being watched through my own devices, and I knew my own technology was being used against me. And so one particular day, I want to get into this too. I began to hear these guys talk. And I told you that I kind of got it to separate, where I could hear these voices, but I knew they weren't mine. And I hear this guy talking, and he goes,
he refers to me, he's like, this investigator. He called me an investigator. I don't know what that means. I kind of wonder, do they manipulate and use people with this technology? Kind of, mind control you to go somewhere, go shopping, go here to gang stalk. I mean, a lot of these people that are being their, TIs, they claim these people are harassing them. I go and take my trash out and the neighbor comes out at the same time. I go back at my house and no one comes outside. I go take my dog for a walk and all these people show up. Well, if you've got a mass population and they're using mind control technology on them and they all get the idea to go walk their dog at the same time or take their trash out, that idea comes into their brain. Mm-hmm. I mean, Edward Snowden said they got the technology and he kind of explains it really good.
Right.
So I know it's possible. And the sad thing is a lot of people, they don't realize, or they don't understand this technology. They don't understand how it works. I've got a communications background, so I know communications really well. I just couldn't imagine just a normal person, this happening to. And I'm documenting everything I do all day long. I'm journaling it.
Well,
everything.
Rewind a second. You were starting to hear their voices in your head.
Yeah. So I was starting to hear these people that were using this technology against me. They were using it local. Because I would catch the beams. I would see the beams, or my son would see the beams on the house. So they were using some kind of laser microwave mind control technology local. And again, it was the same voice from the call with my police captain. And he says, this investigator can hear us. And he's talking to someone. And I've also caught that on my EVP, on my Olympus recorder. I've got that clip, and I've also got the other. Well, I've got one or the other. I can't remember which one it is. I have some EVPs of this happening, and I can't remember which ones I have and which ones I don't have. When this was all going on, I mean, I documented and I kept so much footage and so much data that I have to kind of go through it all to kind of see what I still have. So I call down to the FBI. I'm kind of instructed to, call down there and see what they say. So I call the FBI, and they file a report. They got an operator, and she will take your claim. And she says, someone might get back with you, someone might not. And that's what she said. I tell her what's going on. I tell her who I work for, and no call back, nothing. And I think I made three calls, nothing. And what I really started to notice too, my route at work began to be nothing but police, people that worked in law enforcement, and fire department employees. Every job, every day was either a police officer. And I mean, I don't think they were involved in this, but I don't know why this was happening, but I knew it was very, very strange. And it was like, maybe I attracted it, but every day it was nothing but police captains, government workers, and AT&T employees. And I remember going on this one particular job, and this man had, it was just such a strange day. It was a brand new install, like a 4-room system we were putting in for him. And he had cameras laying around his basement. Like he just went and bought like a Costco system, and it was laying all over the basement. You could see the wires were strung through the house, brand new, nice house, and I'm like, why? Well, I'm thinking to myself, maybe he's just trying them out. He wants to see how they operate before he puts them up. And I'm working down the basement, I'm running wire. And I noticed when I would walk out of range, the cameras were just kind of laying down there, like almost maybe, to make look like they're not being used, or he was just playing with them. But he was actually up in his office watching them. And when I'd go out of the screen, he would jump up. I hear him walking upstairs, and he would come downstairs every time I walked out of view of one of these cameras. And I also started noticing on that job, as I was doing this job, a lot of people, this guy would just pace past his house, go down the street and come back. A lot of interference. We had wireless equipment that we had just come out with, DirecTV satellite boxes, and I was having so many problems on these jobs trying to get these devices connected. They would connect, they would drop out. I was constantly going out to my van, getting new equipment because it wasn't working. And what it was is they were surveilling me so hardcore on my jobs that I couldn't even do my job at this point.
Yeah, it was interfering with the network.
It was interfering with my equipment. It was interfering with everything. I mean, trying to get the on-demand working, it requires internet connection. The wireless DirecTV boxes, they have a video bridge, and it was interfering with all of it. Pretty soon, my job, I'm doing like 4 or 5 a day, turns into 1 or 2. And my boss doesn't know this is going on. I don't know that if he knows or not at this point, but it gets so bad that I'm barely doing any work. And so the UFO part of it, this comes in, I buy a brand new camera system, high tech at the time. I think it was 1080p. 4K surveillance wasn't available. I don't think it was available in 2016. I think 1080p was as high as you could go, or you had to pay a lot of money for the 4K. So I buy a brand new camera system, and I come home from work one night, and I'm putting up these cameras. And there was just so much activity that night. There's 2 drones up in the sky circling on the property. And I'm going around. I started it was daylight, but as the night progressed, it was getting darker and darker. So I'm at the back of my house, and I'm putting up this camera above my son's bedroom, 2nd floor dormer. It's way up high. Actually put 2 there. One's a long range and one's a short range. And I'm zooming them in. I'm here on my phone, and I'm zooming the cameras in like this. And I'm looking at my monitor, my remote viewing on my phone to see if I'm getting them right. And I notice something in the sky above the street behind me, real big, and it's got this bluish green light glowing. I see it on my camera, and I look back, and it's there. So I'm like, okay, it's not infrared. And I see it, and when I would look at it, it would kind of turn, and it would just kind of go off. And this time I didn't know, I couldn't describe it until I started watching it more. So I'm still working on these cameras, getting them aimed in. And I'm on the back half of the house doing the rear cameras. And I'm looking at my remote viewing, and it pops up on the front of my house. So now it's in the street in front of me again. And I want to describe the craft. The craft looked like a crescent. So if you look at a crescent moon kind of turned flat, yeah, that's what this craft looked like. Really shiny metallic. And in the front, it had this porthole window. That was it. The only window, porthole window on the front between the 2 little, I guess you call it like the clamshell, where it kind of, the crescent kind of comes together. And I'm looking at my phone. I'm looking at kind of looking off the side of the house, and I see it there. And I'm just trying to figure out, is that a drone? I'm like, at this point, I don't know what it is. I'm like, is that a drone? Or what is that? And it would turn slowly, like this, and it would go off the other way. And it would always go from west to east. Always go west to east. And I thought to myself, man, that's really unusual, whatever that is. And I remember I didn't hear any noise, but it was over, the street behind me. So it was pretty far away. I put these new cameras up. I go about my business. Same stuff's happening at work. Same stuff's still happening at home. A lot of ground activity, people running back and forth. All that crap's going on. But now it's not really bothering me anymore. And when I would get home in the evening, like I said, I would clean the van out, and I would kind of play ball with my dog. I had a little Jack Russell Terrier that loved to play tennis ball, so I'd throw the ball. And I generally get home somewhere between 5 and 7. So right at dawn. And I noticed that craft show up at 7. Well, I began to realize it was showing up at 7. I didn't know that originally, but in the coming days, it would show up, and it would show up behind the house, and it would just do this number. It would come in like this, and it would come around to the front of the house, and then it would just keep making that rotation. And I'd go get my girlfriend. I'd say, come here, look at this. And she would always stall, or something would happen, but she would always walk outside the second it was out of view, almost like she wasn't meant to see it. Right. I mean, it was just so crazy because I went and got her so many times. This happened. So it ended up happening for 7 straight days. And what I started to realize by the end of the days is it was showing up at 7, and it would make 7 passes, and it would leave. And it did this for 7 straight days. And on the seventh day, it came from the rear of the property and came right up to the house, like right up. It was probably 20 feet above the tree line. And when it did that, I could see the mass, the scale of it. It was huge. I would probably describe it maybe as big around as 4 trucks. Like if you stacked 2 trucks this way and 2 trucks that way, big around.
Yeah.
And it kind of just hovered there above the tree lines. And I remember hearing how it sounded. It kind of just had a slight hum to it, almost like a refrigerator, not loud at all. And I knew that it wasn't a drone. I couldn't see any doors on it or anything. Completely like a really bright, shiny, metallic. And it just had that one window up front. And then it just turned. It was weird. Like it was what they wanted me to know. Who they were. And I felt good. I didn't feel scared or anything. I remember watching it, and then I was just astounded by it, and it turned around and it just went off real slow. It didn't hit light speed or anything until it got way out, and it just disappeared. And the more I thought about it, I think I was kind of just so worried about what had been happening on the ground and so distracted by it that I didn't realize what was happening in the sky. But the more I thought about it, I knew how it worked, which was very odd. I was like connecting with these beings. And so the greenish blue light coming from the porthole and the claws where it comes together, there's some type of an arc that goes across there that they can turn on, and they can project and open up and close wormholes. So that's how it would hit light speed. And I knew that it operated with their mind. It had controls in it. I seen the inside of it. I had an image of the inside that I was shown, and it had controls, really beautiful, almost organic in nature. But they had the option. They could control this craft with their mind. They can control it manually. And I knew that they were on my side.
Star family.
The more I thought about it, I start to realize this is family. This is my star origin star family. Yeah. But I knew they were on my side, and what was great about it is it really the vibrations. And once this happened, it really didn't bother me so much what was happening below. And really, what I realized is that stuff never did bother me. I was being mind controlled. That technology, they would use different frequencies and vibrations to keep you in a fearful, worried state. And they wanted you. They wanted me to know that they were doing it. Maybe not at first, but that's the whole idea by all that stuff is they want to keep you scared and worried and hiding. But it was really beautiful. Trying to think where I can go from there.
Well, I want to rewind a little bit. Didn't you say one time you actually walked outside and saw somebody filming you from the window? Like you didn't just see them on your camera, but you actually saw them when you walked outside? You could see the light from coming out, like shining onto your house. Did you not tell me one time that happened?
There was, yeah. And that happened more than once. So the guy that had the 3.5-foot lens across the street on this side from me, when I was seeing that on my cameras, I actually went outside and observed it. And, they just kind of run away, or go inside. And I think that's exactly what he did. He just went inside. He just went back in the house, and it was a man. He's down. He had cameras on a tripod, and he's like this, and he's filming. And then there was a woman standing there with him. And they just kind of packed up and went inside. And the street behind me, they would set up on the porch. There was a front porch of a house, and they would set up right on the corner. Same stuff, same kind of type of camera. And they would film when I was in the backyard. And so, yeah, I would see it when I would go outside, and I would go outside. And there was one point where they even there was a Black Hawk helicopter had come over and circled my property and just went around for like 20 minutes. This thing hovered around my property real low. I remember the sound of it. It had no lights other than like a blue and green light blinking on the bottom. And it was just like a harassment campaign. I don't know where to go with it, but when I would use the phone, you would hear you could almost hear people chime in when you'd be on the phone there would be like a, you would hear like someone like chime in and then like monitor your calls. And it was very strange too. Anytime I was talking about what was going on with someone else, it seemed that it would start to happen more and more.
You mentioned one time your eyelids were burned. You thought you were targeted with a microwave weapon.
That's recent. So this kind of abruptly stops, and it's April 2016, and I'm being attacked really hardcore one night, and I was up all night, and now the sun's up, and I'm being attacked. These people are harassing me, and I can hear it. I'm thinking it's happening outside, but I'm like, how do I hear these voices so clear? I knew they were around me, in these houses outside, but I'm hearing it clear as a bell. And at this point, I don't realize it was happening in my own mind. I'm thinking I'm hearing it from outside, and it's a harassment campaign. My girlfriend and kids are sleeping. They had been in bed all night. I was up all night going insane. And out of nowhere, the sky just like got 10 times brighter. And I hear this voice come in, and he says, "You're not going to do anything to them. You guys aren't going to do anything." And this man with this really strong, powerful voice, and I can only describe it as it was God, and basically puts a stop to it. And the sky, like I said, the sky got bright, and it was done. It was over. And I remember just being like, what just happened? And I'm looking on my cameras. I can't find anyone. Everything that was happening was gone. It was almost like I had entered into a different reality. Like where I was no more. Or maybe, like I said in the beginning, I think I was kind of coming out in and out of dimensions or realities. It was very strange. But everything was gone. Like the surveillance, I didn't see any of it. On the cameras, everything appeared to be normal. No anomalies. Internet's working fine. Everything was perfect. And I just didn't understand it. I was just so blown away by what had just happened. So anyway, coming days, I'm still watching camera footage. I'm still looking for it, but nothing. No audio, no problems with our phones, nothing. And I remember just feeling really, really, really good, like wonderful.
Like it's over. Yeah.
It was, well, I felt free. The only way to describe it is I felt free. It was, and I tell people it was the only time in my life that I felt like I was me. I had never felt this way before, and it lasted about 3 months. I felt like I was in heaven on earth. It was just this overwhelming feeling. Life was really good. And
wow, talk about night and day difference. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, it was almost like I'd entered into the fifth, people talk about the fifth dimension of being perfect, no wicked, no evil, but I'm seeing, the same stuff. And I mean, things look more beautiful. The colors of the sky were different, darker, colors were more profound. It was really, the only way to describe it is like heaven on earth.
For a whole 3-month period you experienced?
It lasted for 3 months. And
wow.
Yeah, so let's see where we go from there.
What triggered it to stop after 3 months, do you think?
Fear and worry. So I kind of developed some fear and worry.
Your vibration lowered.
My vibration lowered. So yeah, whatever had happened had raised my vibration. And it brought it back down. But none of that stuff happened after that. There was some voice to skull stuff that continued to happen when my vibration lowered, but it wasn't what it was. It was
nowhere near what it was.
Yeah. And that's what I want to say to, other people that are going through this. Anytime I was able to prove what they were doing, it would abruptly stop. So the same 3 houses that were, targeting me, when I would pull out of the driveway, if I went right, well, the cars would, someone from this house here, he would follow me. When I would leave my property, the house behind me, someone would leave and go right, and someone would come out of the house in front and go left. And they would wait at the end of the street.
So these are your actual neighbors, like people that live in the houses around you, or are these people that were just hanging out around the, like?
No, they were living in these houses. But
At the time, are they still the same people that are there now?
So this goes back. This is back before the change.
He's talking about the investigators who were basically using those homes to surveil him.
Yeah.
Like
So when I was,
well, that's what I'm asking. They weren't your actual neighbors, just normal neighbors. These are different people. Okay.
Right. Yeah. No. Yeah. So in the beginning, when I would leave the property, I would be tailed. I would be followed by one of those two houses, and I would see this on camera. After, I don't know what it is, I entered into so I experienced like a Mandela effect type of thing. And during those 3 months too, I was shown this. I didn't know about, I kind of believed in aliens. I didn't know about star origins and all the stuff I know today, vibration, spiritual. I was not spiritual. And I'm watching videos on lunch break at work, on YouTube videos, and I kind of come across this Mandela stuff, and they're talking about all the changes. And one of the big one was the heart. This guy, he's claiming that our heart used to be on the left side.
Yeah, it's like center now.
And now it's centered and bigger. Yeah. And I thought about that, and I was like, man, I remember in elementary school, the teacher would say, put your hand over your right, your left breast. That's where your heart is. And I pledge allegiance to the flag.
You didn't do center.
Right.
Yeah, they didn't say center. No, they said left. And so he's showing pictures. He's like, here's where it used to be, and here's where it is. And then the more I learned about like the chakras, your heart chakra, your crown chakra, I was like, it's in the center. That makes sense. So if it's over here, well, your chakra's not aligned. But
not in alignment.
It was a Mandela effect. And then the spellings, like I remember Jif peanut butter being spelt different than it is now.
Jiffy, yeah.
Yes.
Or Berenstain Bears is now Berenstain.
And I read that as a kid.
Me too. I'm 100% sure.
Yeah, same here. Yeah.
And I had a bunch of those books. I read it all the time as a kid.
But and I still
Mr. Rogers, It's a Beautiful Day in This Neighborhood. No, I watched that show like every day as a kid.
Right.
It was It's a Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood,
Right.
No, it's always been this. It doesn't even sound right. It sounds completely wrong because
So and I mean, I grew up life, I don't know, in that world or that dimension. And so I realize I'm somewhere else, and I'm realizing difference. Like the games I played as kids, there was a system, like a gaming system that was old, like should have like released in the 90s. I'm like, I don't remember that gaming system when I was a kid. It was Sega Genesis and Nintendo. I can't remember what it was called. There was a third one. Like, I don't remember that.
Oh, TurboGrafx 16.
Oh, I can't remember what it was called.
Jaguar?
I come across it. Huh?
Jaguar.
TurboGrafx 16. Yeah, Jaguar or Dreamcast. But so I'm seeing all these different things, and this is during the 3 months that were just profoundly awesome. And I'm like, man, I don't know what happened, but this is awesome. And I'm telling my mom about it. And I'm like, my heart used to be over. I'm like, I'm not from this dimension. I'm from somewhere else. I'm not from this world. She's like, what are you talking about? Our hearts. I'm like, well, maybe you're from here. And I'm trying to explain it to her. I'm like, Bernstein Bears, Bernstein Bears, and now it's the Bernstein Bears.
Yeah.
Stein. Well, it all means something. And I remember watching that movie, Magic Mirror on the Wall.
Now it's
Mirror on the Wall. Who's the fairest of them all? And now it's Magic Mirror on the Wall.
Right.
It wasn't like that.
It
wasn't.
Yeah, it was Mirror. Yeah.
Mandela effect gets its name from a whole bunch of people remember Nelson Mandela dying in prison in the 80s,
right?
And then suddenly that never happened, and he's still
yeah, he died later. He died later,
right.
And so I mean, it's just crazy talking about that targeting stuff. It really even puts me in a low vibration. So I tend not to even watch. Like I watch comedies. I watch upbeat stuff. Anytime I kind of get into that, it kind of really, I start feeling that uncomfortable feeling. And honestly, so I realize I'm in a different place, but I'm happy. Life's good. Everyone's so much nicer. And I'm coming to them. I'm still talking about this stuff. I haven't let go of it yet. And I'm telling people, and it didn't matter who I went to. They would do nothing but believe in me and bring me up. And I'm like, this is weird. Usually when you tell someone something, they're skeptic, they got questions. No, that can't be possible. And they would just discredit what you would say. And I mean, I'm going way back in my life, but it seemed like people were just different and so much happier. And they were at work. Everyone looked the same. They were the same people. I mean, maybe it's the higher self or an alternate version. But so life was just grand. And anyway, I lowered my vibration with some fear and worry. And I think maybe it was over money. We had a lot of toys back then. I was making good money, when my daughter was born, I kind of gave it up. I'm like, I'm not going to do all this extra work and I don't need these things. But anyway, I got myself in a fearful state. And I remember this real negative voice or negative thing. And it's kind of taunting me. I can hear it in my mind. And it says, I'm going to put you, he says, we're going to put you back on this machine. And then he said, don't listen to this machine. It was using all this reverse technology. And so this machine was nothing but, it sounded like a robot, but it was nothing but torment. And it was continuous. Remember I told you about the radio playing in your head, hearing a radio song? That was basically what it was. It was, we got in and now we're going to keep disrupting you so that we can keep in, so we can stay in, so we can manipulate and control you. That they need some way to keep you connected to whatever this technology is. And so that's why, when you're up in a real high, like I was in a high state the other day, good vibration, feeling good. And I go to Menards to get some building materials and everyone's just being really ignorant to me. I mean, I hadn't done nothing. Reason. Cash register, later I hand her a rebate offer and she hands it back to me. And I'm like, well, what's left on it? She's like, when you use it next time, it'll reflect a change. I'm like, why don't you write down the difference? You use your debit card or a gift card at Home Depot or anywhere, and there's money left on it, they'll write it down. But everyone's being real ignorant. And so this is what I began to realize is you're going up in vibration. They need a way to keep you chained up in chains. And so something would always happen. And like this stuff in Hawaii, it's really dragging on me now. It's horrible. It's horrible. And I feel.
Why do you think they did? One of the biggest reasons they did that. What do people say about Maui? It's the heart chakra of the planet. Yeah. Well, if this wasn't an attack on the heart chakra of the planet, I don't know what is. Right. To keep the vibration lower.
True heartburn.
Right.
But it's nothing but, they just want, they're keeping you connected so they can use you, manipulate you, make the world just how they want it. I think someone said like the ley lines in the spiritual places on earth, they could be used for good. They can be used for evil. If people are doing evil things and kind of get a power on top of you, they can kind of keep you at bay. But if you rise above that, you can change it all. And that's what it's always been. I mean, that's what I see with it. And so I've been struggling around. It's 2023 now. I've had my ups and downs, and it seems like it was before. I mean, before all this happened, like I would say my earlier life, but I know I'm in a different place. So what I truly believe is that they got in with the technology. I am in a different place than I originally was. They're getting in, but as soon as it closes, it goes away, or I raise my vibration and come out of it. It's the same thing over again. It's like heaven on earth, and it comes and it goes. And I mean, anyone struggling with this, I could tell you, if you can prove it, that's good. It's good to be able to prove it because you can stop it. You can stop it. Mm-hmm. But really, you're better off they want your attention.
They want you to be afraid.
They want you to be afraid. They want you to be scared. They want you to be dwelling on it. If you think of evil, I mean, it is a dark government, but it's really what it comes down to. Everything in the world is nothing but evil or light versus
dark. Yeah.
Dark. That's all it is. And it doesn't matter, what religious group you are, or what, if you're Republican or Democrat and you're union or non-union, it doesn't matter. That evil can get into churches. I've seen it there. It gets into union, non-union. It gets
everything.
it gets into both parties. It doesn't matter. And that's where it's at. They've infiltrated all of that stuff. And really, who cares what anyone thinks? It should just be, you and God, and who gives a crap what anyone thinks or what anyone says about you. But
if you are not,
you're better off just to try and do. So I went from literally being a lunatic. I was doing all that crazy stuff. The TIs, they really try to make you look crazy. They're trying to discredit you. You're a person of power. Yeah. People listen to you. People follow you. People want to be around you, and they want to put you in a mental hospital.
Mm-hmm.
They want to dispower you so they can stay in power. And that's what it is. And it doesn't matter. Anyone can come up and be a guiding light. Many of us in our spiritual group, our peers have come up and have been a guiding light for so many. And that's really what it's all about. And they're trying to keep us at bay. And so what I realize now is, I'm a star seed. And there's a lot of us here. And obviously, they're trying to target the empowered ones.
Yeah.
And, but you're better off to just ignore it and do whatever you can to live life and raise your vibration. If music brings you up, do music. If reading, whatever it is, racing cars, woodworking, whatever it might be, if it brings your vibration up, makes you feel good, that's what you should do, just to come out of it.
You are more powerful than you realize, and that's that's what they hope you don't realize, so they can keep manipulating you and keep feeding off of your energy, and you're constantly giving. We're the ones feeding the dark, and that's the whole game. And the second we realize we have the power here, we've just been manipulated into fear of all these things and feeding the dark, feeding the control system. We're the ones keeping it going. Like we've been manipulated into it. It's game over the second enough of us realize that and wake up start raising our vibration, and then boom, it's done.
Right.
And that's what's happening. That's why they're flipping out and doing things like the Maui thing that just happened, because they're that desperate.
Yeah, and that to me is insane.
I do want to say though, you nailed it on the head when you said they want you to give it your attention and focus. Like you become obsessed with it because you have proof. You're like, well, first of all, when it's new, you do become obsessed with it because you want to know what's going on. Now you understand all their tactics, all their ways, how the world is ran, the shadow governments. Once you finally grasp all that, you get it. Now you don't have to look into it and discover that it's happening. You understand that it's happening at lengths and depths that we can't even fathom sometimes. But now you realize that it happens, you can rise above it. Now you understand, and you don't have to give it your power. You're like, oh, okay, I see what they're doing now. I'm going to go do this and counter it, instead of like, well, what's happening? Because it's not new anymore. So if
they wanted me doing exactly what I was doing. And so later on, I began to be able to connect with star beings, with angels, and they would tell me that's exactly what they want you to do. They want you to act nuts and get mad and throw fits.
Yeah.
I would get so upset because it would be happening to me. I'd hear it or I'd see it and I'm trying to prove it to people and get so upset. And they go, that's what they want you to do. They want you to storm out of your house and throw a big scene out in the street.
That's the trap.
They want you.
Yeah.
And they did make me look really, I look back at it now. I don't give a crap. I don't give a crap what anyone thinks either, but I did look kind of crazy for a while. I got a huge family, brothers and sisters, and they all came over and they supported me. My family has been a big support, but I know a lot of people that go through this. It's like their own families that turn against them, their friends that turn against them. And I did have a few friends that turned, it kind of went the other way, but they weren't close friends. They weren't real. But my friends and family have stuck by me. And heck, I continue to have visions. I mean, it's really beautiful now. I have these beautiful visions, from the star beings that happen. I've seen visions of heaven. I've seen visions of Lemuria, all kinds of different stuff that happens. And all I could say is, you got to follow that guiding light. Do whatever, brings you joy, brings you happiness, and don't let things get you down. Don't lie. You can really manipulate people with, and a lot of people they don't realize how much they're being controlled by like fake news or just putting stuff on the news.
Right.
My mom, I like to use her for example. Over the winter, we had there was a chance for snow the next day, and they made a big deal about it. And she says, I go to the grocery store to get milk and eggs, and she was all the way in the back of the store in line to get milk and eggs, all the way in the back of the grocery store. And I get a call from my daughter's school. They're calling off school the next day, and nowadays, if you have a snow day, they just go virtual since COVID. The kids can go, they just get their tablets out and they do a snow. It's a real easy day for them. They get off at like 1 and then go play in the snow, which is really cool. I really think it's neat, but they weren't prepared for this. So they didn't have their tablets. The next day comes, we didn't even get a quarter of an inch.
Right.
They had called off school. People ran out and got food. And that just goes to show you, how much you can manipulate people. So,
how much fear people hold in their system
yes, but you become addicted
triggers
to
them
it
so much. They're, oh my God,
right.
They flip out at the slightest.
Well, and the media
really become addicted to it.
The media uses hypnotic mind control frequencies as well. I've heard people describe that it even comes through your TV while the TV's off. Like, and it can be that crazy, but definitely while you're tuned in to the broadcast, like it's not just what they're saying. There's extremely low frequencies, ELFs, being literally beamed into your head. They bypass the eardrums. It is a type of, your TV is a type of voice of God device.
Oh yeah. And it can be used against you, especially if you're watching the negative, or you're watching all the bad things that are happening in the world. Not that we shouldn't be mindful of them, because we certainly should be. Like, I wish I could be over there doing something right now in Maui. I really do. They won't let anyone in, but you got to be mindful of it, but don't let it run your world.
Right.
I see a lot of the older folks, and they just
see the agendas and then understand who you really are, because you're not this body, you're not this little thing that has no power. You are so much bigger than that. You're not just this body. But there is no death. Death is an illusion. So you take away, if people can get over the fear of death, because there is nothing to fear with death.
Right. There isn't.
Basically all the other fears go with it, because what else is there to fear? If you can kill this body and you're not killing me, you're just killing this body.
Right.
And I'm going to keep living on. We're eternal beings. So why would I be afraid of anything in this 3D temporary experience?
No, I think we all worry about the same stuff. We worry about what people think of us, or we worry about the choices we make. And it's all, and that's what they want, but we're all one.
We're all one.
It's no mistake that we are on this planet, all of us, but we're all so divided. We've got borders, and different little parties and groups that we're a part of. And it's not meant to be like that. I really believe, it's about unity. That's why they call it a university. It's not about diversity. Mm-hmm. It's really a coming together. I'm a big advocate. I don't believe we should have borders. I kind of would like to see that go away.
Oh, one day.
Really, but not under the control system. Yeah, that's going away first, and then
And watching, I wanted to elaborate too about there is an AI presence, and I believe it is the 3D matrix that we've all been experiencing. I don't think it's anything new. If they're talking about doing it on Maui, I think we're kind of undergoing it now. And I want to tell this story really quick. I was thinking about it. My kids, my daughters, she's on her tablet a lot. My son plays video games, and they get really grouchy. They're really crabby. They don't get along with one another. You take them out in nature, you get rid of the electronics and all that, and you kind of get out in nature. I just took them to the pool the other day, and they played with each other and loved each other the entire time. They're like different people. So like you're saying, with that technology coming through those devices, I really believe it's true also. And even me, heck, I might be trying to bring myself up. I'm using technology to do scripture or a meditation. And even then, it kind of has, I feel like I would be better off just to go sit out in nature. It would work better. And a lot of times it does. It's very important just to get out, disconnect.
Ground, get out in nature, like get fresh air, get sunlight, connect with spirit, meditate, stop eating crap, stop watching the news, or just all these things that lower your vibration and keep you feeding the control system and keep you down, keep you in fear, keep you in lack mentality, keep your energy low.
Right.
That's what they want. That's when you look at everything they push is all things that keep you in those states, right?
Sure. Yeah. And it's tough. I mean, it's tough to even expose it. Doing what you guys is doing, it's so necessary. And it's, like I said, I have a hard time. I mean, even telling this story, I really get into that fearful state and that worry state, and my brain isn't just, it doesn't work right. It
glitches you out.
It glitches out, and almost right. I want to go through some of them experiences going through that. It even feels like it's an AI, it's an AI technology with evil behind it. It. And I remember going back and forth. Is this an evil entity, or is this some kind of a technology? I remember going back and forth. Well, it's both. It is both. They're using both.
Mm-hmm.
But it's our power. Like you said, it is our power, and we're taking it back. And that's all it is they need to get in there. They don't have power. They leech off our power.
Right.
That's what they feed off. They feed off that fear and worry.
We're the batteries running the system.
Yeah.
Like Matrix. It's a Matrix is a documentary.
Yeah. You know what? And the spiritual beings, I felt to watch that. And it was funny. I was watching Tron a whole bunch during a lot of these experiences. But I have some of those movies really play it out well, like Tron or The Matrix, Bliss. I've seen Bliss. Yeah, Bliss is a good one. But in that reality, we do it on purpose. We do it so that we can appreciate, and you do. I mean, I am very appreciative when I raise my vibration. And I think that's one of the most important things, just to be thankful for what you have. And if you're in a hard spot and you're going through that stuff, it's like, if you can ignore it and just be thankful for what you have already, and thankful for the good things. And heck, I've got a kind of a Christian background. I don't belong to any group, or I don't belong to a church or anything, but it says in the Bible that you should thank God for your bad experiences too, because even though they are wicked, they might be evil. There's some good that's going to come out. There's a learning curve that's going to come out of it. And I really feel
blessings in disguise.
Yes, they're blessings in disguise. And it just, it's like when you've worked really hard for something and then it gets easy and you're just really thankful for it, or you come out of it. So,
yeah. Well, Jordan, thank you so much for joining us today and coming forward and sharing your story for the first time publicly. And we really appreciate you coming on. And it's your testimony is just proof. Again, it's proof that this stuff is happening. And thank you. I think it's very real what's happening. I've experienced it. A lot of our audience has. We've interviewed targeted individuals before, and any advice that anyone can bring to the table to help someone else out of that situation, that's the most important part. And that's what you're doing. So thank you. And is there any last word you'd like to leave us with before we wrap this up?
No, I don't think there's anything. I just want to, tell people, I mean, there is hope, even when you feel it's so bad. And I've been there. I've been there for a long time. There's hope, and you will come out of it. Yep.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. It's only in a rough patch. It's not a rough life. Unless you're.
We are the hope, and that's what we are. The ones we've been waiting for.
Right.
We need to all realize it's not about an external savior is going to come save us. We're going to wait on that. No, we're the ones creating. Your connection to source, God, whatever universe, whatever term you want to call it, is crucial, because that's it. We're all part of it.
You are God.
Yeah,
I mean, we are all part of it. This whole everything.
Exactly.
And God is empowering you. He's not trying to hold you down, and he's trying to pull you up into power. That's what he wants to do. So there's a lot of confusion on that. He's trying to empower you. He wants you to be strong and powerful and be able to deal with things like this when they come up. And we've just been held down.
Exactly. Nailed it.
Right. All right. Well, thank you so much. This was incredible. I'm sure the audience enjoyed this. And guys, just a reminder, you can go check out our documentary on Patreon. It's only $5 a month to sign up. and it'll be released publicly shortly. But Jordan is in the documentary briefly, sharing some of his experiences surrounding the mounds and what happened in St. Louis. And Aaron and I will be in Aztec, New Mexico next week for the SUNFIRE Festival. If you want to come hang out with us, tickets are available below at sunfirefest.com. We hope to see you there. Have a great evening. We love you, and good night.
Good night.
Good night, guys.
A lot of this information has been kept sort of locked up or kept undercover because of the invasion of the Smithsonian group way back in the 1880s.
What actually happens is it's not taken to preserve it, it's taken to hide it.
And about 4.5 miles from here, a cave was discovered. It's not really a cave as such, it's a man-made cavern system.
But how the hell do you get that much granite? Because the granite on the base of that damn near weighs what the dirt on the top of it weighs. Nobody knows what's underneath it. I've heard a theory that there's a spaceship underneath it.
There was copper and steel-plated artifacts that depicted men in armor with shields and helmets.
Including right here at Cahokia, there were reported 2 giants with double rows of teeth and 6 fingers and 6 toes.
Extra vertebrae or extra ribs in their cage. These are different races of people. They're not just regular humans.
Definitely is a stone burial chamber, and there's a large body in it, bones. I would say 15 to 16 feet.
I saw different types of extraterrestrials here with the Native Americans.
The peoples of the Cahokia Mounds actually saw the Birdman as some kind of cosmic being and not a humanoid being.
So this Birdman was the last and the pure and the true of his kind.
So yes, there were rituals, or there were dances and celebrations, and people would dress up like the galactic beings that were visiting. But there were actual physical galactic beings that were visiting.